Well, good morning, everyone. I am here today in Tampa with my dad, where we are visiting the World War II Liberty ship, the American Victory, right behind me. This is a World War II Liberty ship built in the late of World War II, served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. She is what they consider a working ship, still works. So we're gonna head on in and we're gonna take a look at the ship. And as well, in the description, I'm going to put all the information on where you can come see this. This is right next to the Florida Aquarium, which the Florida Aquarium, literally right behind me. It's right inside the port of Tampa. So let's head on in and let's take a look at the American Victory Liberty ship. All right, as we're walking to the ship, again, this served in World War II. This is in the configuration of World War II. It does have a 5-inch gun. Although run by the Merchant Marines, it did during World War II have a detachment of Navy gunners ranging from 5-inch gun to anti-aircraft 20mm. So, and the paint job is done up in the camouflage that you would typically see during World War II. And these were the backbone of the Navy's transports carrying cargo and equipment and men to the front lines on the Atlantic, in the Europe, and also in the Pacific. And as I said, basically right next to the ship right here is the Florida Aquarium, so right next door. But we're gonna go and head right on up here just to show you admission prices. If you're a member, you get them for free. Adults are $12, youth are $7, seniors are $10, veterans in active duty will be $10, children under 3 are free. Again, all this information will be placed in the description so you can see more information. So before we head in, just want to briefly, these ships were built in such quick time. If you can see, these are welded. These ships were welded, not riveted, which created, these ships could be built in a matter of months rather than almost a year that would take some of the bigger naval ships. That's why these were such just amazing ships. Alright, so we have now entered the ship. My dad and I were able to get in on the veterans, so we are heading in here. And again, this is basically, we're in the cargo hold, and these are models of different configurations of the Liberty ship. And again, these Liberty ships were run by the Merchant Marines, but yet they had US Navy gunners on it. And you've got some that show 5-inch guns, then you have your machine guns, anti-aircraft guns. These are some of the ships that would escort the Liberty ships during the convoys, especially here in the Atlantic. Mostly it was destroyers or tin cans, as they were called, which carried 5-inch guns, torpedo tubes, and of course the ship that would hunt them would be the German U-boat. Here's some little information of the SS American Victory. She's 55 feet long. Its max draft was 28 feet. Could go a max speed of 17 knots. Cruising range was 23,500 miles. 62 merchant sailors and US Navy armed guards, which was your gunners. Carries one 5-inch 38 caliber gun aft, one 3-inch 50 caliber gun, 4 8 20mm AA guns. This is a 5-inch shell that could be fired from the 5-inch gun, and then your 20mm. So different size comparison. And the one thing that was used during the use of the convoy system was the PBY Catalina and the B-24 Liberator. The workhorses in the skies. And these would protect the Liberty ships out until basically the max range of the PBY and the B-24. And then here's a size of the propeller that drove it. And this was a Corvette, which also assisted in the protection of convoys. So this is a mock-up of what basically kind of the bridge would kind of look like, give you an idea of basically what it looked like to look outside the pilot house or the bridge. And you've got your compass. They would use this to talk to people down in the engine room. Of course, they would use this to which would signal the engine room on what they want them to do: stop, slow, head, go stern, which is going back. But yeah, not a whole lot of good vision looking into the bridge or looking out of the bridge. Now, during World War II, obviously we all know about U-boats, but Germans also had midget submarines known as Seehunds or Seahounds, and they were just two-person crafts. Basically, you only carried two torpedoes on a torpedo on each side. They actually have one cut in pretty much half, so not a whole lot of room. Basically, one person, the pilot. You got, obviously one of them would be in command. Periscope, obviously their way out. And there's where the second torpedo would. These mostly would basically be closer to the coast. These wouldn't be going out like normal subs. So these were your close-in submarines. So you figure, you probably got about another maybe 15, 20 feet beyond where the cutoff is, which would be basically be where the engine housing would be. But not a whole lot of room. That's why these were pretty much go out, shoot your torpedoes, and come right back. All right, so I do need to change something. This is not a Liberty ship. This is a Victory ship. There was two different versions. The Liberty ships that we all know and we've heard of are the ones, because this was built later, these were called Liberty ships. And I learned something today, so there's your quick change on this. So let's continue. Now, before we move into another cargo hold, this is actually a cargo bay door that would open up so the cargo can come and get lowered down. As you can see right here, there's a couple ports that either guys could, there'd probably be a ladder. In fact, just right here is a ladder where they could crawl down when this bay is open, and they have basically kind of another one over here. So this would be completely open so they can lower cargo down. And just like the doors up here, there is still cargo hold down in the bottom. So this could be pulled up and more cargo can be placed down below, which probably most likely would be your ammunition, because it's on the bottom. If you need to flood the area because you don't want it to explode, you would flood down there rather than up here. All right, now we're moving into another cargo hold. It is a smaller cargo hold than the main one. Again, you have your main door, and then these would open up and you can see down all the way down to the bottom deck. So you still had 2 more decks below that can get filled up. Again, down here would be probably most likely your ammunition, where vehicles and your troops could be housed up here. And there's no air conditioning in here right now. It is very, very hot. But this is a smaller bay compared to the main bay through those bulkhead doors. And I'll go over here. That's a rescue. A lifeboat. That's what it is. So that's a lifeboat over there. We'll go over there in just a moment. So over here, looking at the different communications, one thing to note for the lifeboats, they have this radio, which is hand cranked. Someone had to hand crank that while someone was trying to communicate. You have the antenna indicator with your tuning antenna. This right here is actually your antenna. A lot of times you just, if you could find a pole or something, put it on an oar, stick it up in the air to give you some more distance. And there is a instruction manual on how to use it. Of course, with the lifeboats, you take the antenna and stick it to give you your range. So we're going to head over and we're going to look at what's called the Tampa Bay lifeboat. Painted orange inside because obviously planes from above can see this. All the different rationing, drinking water in cans, your first aid kits, survival food rations, survival biscuits, cans that most likely to use the restroom, blankets. Of course, if you have to go number 2, you probably just plop over the side. And again, the mast, like I said, they would take the antenna, stick it on the mast, and bring it down to increase the range. They have places where you could put the equipment, locations to put the oars in, life vests. Alright, so now we're in the forward part of the ship, and again, this was an area for storage. Every ounce of the ship was used for storage. So you had more places where that would open up, and again, you got 2 more decks below. More stuff would get loaded in. Of course, this is an entranceway down into the level 2, but then they also had this location that would open up and would go all the way above, and it would most likely goes down all the way to the bottom deck. But this would still be completely full of supplies and troops. All right, so we are now basically up on the top deck. But again, more storage space. Another door that can be opened, again, that goes down farther into the ship. More areas. Of course, apparently they're preparing for a Halloween event, so I'm guessing a ghost ship. But more storage. And this is the main stairwell that would go down. Of course, now that I'm looking at it, this was not here, because this would have been closed. So this was put here. That is my mistake. This was just put here because this would be completely covered so they can put more storage. So during World War II, if somebody had to be transported from ship to ship, they would shoot a line across to the ship, and basically it would be connected to a pulley, and you got guys that would literally pull the guy across to the other ship. Very crude seatbelt, very old school. And you'd be sitting on there and holding on for dear life. All right, so we are now outside on the top deck. And again, I mean, you can see right there's the bridge. I mean, we've only been basically into this section right here where you see the white. That's where we started. Here's the opening for this other bay, and then you come up to basically another level. And I'm sorry, I wasn't Navy, so I don't know all naval terms, but you have this, which again would open up and more cargo, and you have these giant cranes that would pick up the supplies and place it in here. Again, there's another one that goes down. These ships were made for cargo and troop movements. And of course, one of the gun emplacements, this is showing it has a 5-inch gun, as you can see up there. And of course, an entrance way down to the bottom was through this hatch. I do know what that's called. It is called a hatch. The pulley systems for the cranes. Sorry, that is not for the cranes. That's for the anchor. But you got another door up front to get you into the front of the ship down the bottom. There's a view from the front with the 5-inch gun. And of course over here, that is the Florida Aquarium. All right, so we were able to walk up here to where the 5-inch gun is. And I mean, this is the forward gun tub, as it's called. And this wasn't a 5-inch gun, this was a 3-inch gun. And these guys' ammunition would be packed over here. You have a guy traversing it, a guy raising it. This would be the guy that would raise the gun up and down, while the other guy would turn this. You have a gun captain. And as you can see, I mean, up here you get a really good bird's eye view of what's around you. All right, so as I showed you down in the lower level, there's here, and as well as right here, are the main ladders that would basically go from here all the way down to the bottom of the ship. And of course, being a supply ship, it provided its own cranes. So you had two booms to pick up and lower supplies there, which would drop into that bay. You have 2 booms here that would do the same thing for this bay. And then you had 2 booms on this side to lower into basically what was known as the main cargo. So yeah, so here's 2 booms. So these were backups. So if these broke, they could move those and attach them. All right, so during World War II, you had a lot of movies that came out. A good comedy, but it was still World War II, called Mr. Roberts with Cary Grant. There were some other notable actors in it, but check that out. Mr. Roberts, it's a really good one. There's another one with James Cagney. I cannot remember the film's name, but check those movies out. So here is, well, I'm going to guess the commissioning plaque. The American Victory, built for the U.S. Maritime Commission, hull number V792 by the California Shipbuilding Corporation, Los Angeles, California. All right, so as we're heading down along the basically the bridge is just up here, but basically above me right here would be a lifeboat. You can see a lifeboat right here. There's the machines that would lower the lifeboats down. Of course, these lifeboats look like, hey, I've seen better days. I'm gonna guess they're probably original. And then there's the back of the ship. It'll probably pretty much be the same layout, pretty much as the front of the ship, but we'll head back there in 1 minute. We're gonna head up top. All right, so this would have been the second mate navigator. This is the third mate's quarter safety officer. So they get their own bed.
Yeah, because they're officer.
Yeah, get a place to sit. Still not much room, but you know, for merchantmen during the time, it was plenty of room. Coming down here, this was the junior third mate, the assistant to the third mate. Again, same size room, same accommodations. You get a little porthole, which that's got glass over it, but most likely it was probably open during World War II. All right, so now we are heading into the captain's quarters, which, wow, they actually have it air conditioned. So captain actually gets a little bit bigger room. Of course, being the captain, you have to be notified of everything. Of course, this would ring and ring upstairs. And of course, he would dial this to whoever he needed to talk to. If he needed to talk to the wheelhouse above, 1, the captain's room, chief's room, emergency generator room. Same bed as the rest of the officers. And he, oh yes, he gets a fan. And of course he gets a very nice look out to the front of the ship. Gets a place where he can actually put some more clothes, put pictures of his family. And this would probably be where the captain's mess is, where he would invite some of his fellow officers to dine with him. He gets his personal desk, and again, just above it would be the bridge.
I thought so.
Is this the?
That's the modern public, but it's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the safe where he would keep all his documents.
It's not original.
Yeah, air conditioning, not original, but still. And again, he gets a fan in here, gets cabinets, another location, probably maybe like an ice box. So, captain gets a little bit more creature comforts. So, right next to the captain's office is the chief officer, also called the first mate, or the executive officer. Again, he gets a little bit bigger room than the other officers, but he still gets a desk, gets some filing cabinets. So, a little bit more creature comforts than the officers below him. But the other thing is, because there was no glass in there, you at least get a breeze that could come through here. All right, so we're gonna walk down here before we head upstairs, but this would go downstairs. And we're gonna walk right here. Here's where the radio operator would be. Of course, this would be his quarters, but he has direct access into his radio office, which he would have a crew member in here, but he can still have direct access from his room into the radio room. And then this would be the entrance to where the radio room would be. Of course, they use Morse code a lot, as you can hear. Sounds like you're doing SOS. We'll come down here and see what else we have. Oh, the shower facility, which very crude, but still. It's pretty much all you get in here. Place to hang your clothes and a shower. And this is the directions for maintenance gyro compass. Alright, now we're heading up into the navigation, which, if you would go through here, would be the bridge. But here's where your navigator would sit. Of course, you know, good room. He'd be over here charting. Of course, they have a chart of Tampa Bay. And right there is where we're sitting right now. But he could be in here. He could yell coordinates. Of course, a lot of the stuff that's put in here was put in here after World War II. That because this was a ship during the Korean and Vietnam, so they have some updated. This is the bridge, or the flying bridge. Again, downstairs they had a mock-up where you had the wheel, you had your compass, you have what they want the engine room to go, ahead, full, slow, half. And again, show you that basically not a whole lot of visual space. There's the front of the ship. And of course, during combat in World War II, these would be dropped, and you only have a slit to see out of, and you would hope the guy out here that can help give more direction. And there's a little bit good view of the front of the ship. Of course, the captain would like to be out here. He's got a compass. You have the signal light that they could use. They would flip this, which would give basically kind of like a Morse code. And of course, you'd have really good breeze out here. So again, the captain and some officers would technically like to stay out here. And it's pretty much the same on the same side. And then behind the bridge, you've got the smokestack that would heads down into the engine room, which we cannot get to down here. Up here you had observation posts for observers. That, or they look like stacks. Probably stacks. Another view of the back of the ship. We're gonna get ready to go back there in a minute. All right, so right below us is the bridge. We came up there, and right here still is where the 20mm anti-aircraft gun would have been placed. I'm standing basically dead center where it would be. You have almost a 360-degree turn. Of course, you're never gonna fire in this direction, but you had a good more than 180 degrees to fire your 20mm. And of course, on really nice days, be nice to your guys. You let them come up here and they can steer the ship from up here. And there's your observation guy, the bird's nest. So what I said back there, that wasn't it. That's what I was talking about for the observer. All right, so we obviously can't go in there because it says crew only, do not enter, but this is where the rest of the crew would be staying. Here's where, I don't know if we can see in here, but there, yep, just barely. This would be the kitchen into the galley. So where the officers are up top, all the crew would be down in here, and also with the crew mess. Alright, so we are basically 2 decks below the so if you would head up here, here's the crew mess kitchen. Very crude. Of course, they have things here so that way when fall out, cast iron skillet that looks like it needs to be re-oiled. Of course, there's always coffee on the ship. That's pretty much a... So, average daily food ration per crewman during the Vietnam service: 5 quarts of water, half a biscuit, pound of salt pork. So that was your daily food rationing. Here's where you, obviously probably where they serve and clean the...
there and clean here.
Yeah. This is, here's the crew's mess. Air conditioned. And again, they got a coffee machine down here, an little ice box. Probably not during World War II. So, not a whole lot of room. Lips to make sure nothing falls off in rough seas. Alright, so we are going to move farther down into the crew. We got engine room down here. Here's some crew quarters, basically 3 guys, maybe 4 guys. It's missing the top bunk. It's only got 3 lockers, so maybe only 3 guys. Communal shower. Come in here, hang your stuff, take your shower. We'll go in the engine room in a minute. There's one with 4 bunks. You each get a locker and a fan. Another shower facility. This is where the firemen, so the guys who basically help put out the fire. This was the, looks like the bosun's the carpenter. So he gets a bed, bigger, good sized room. Of course, that was, I think the bosun was the top enlisted. And then you got 2 bunks in here. And since there's only 2 bunks, you figure they were a little bit higher ranked. Again, no air conditioning going on. This heads probably up into towards the bridge. So here's the ship's hospital. Very, very crude. So place the doctor to sit, or the corpsman for your patient. Your very crude backboard. Of course, the doc probably also stayed here as well. So the head or the bathroom, of course, that's been updated. Here's the medical facility. So room for 4 sick crewmen with backboard. Old school oxygen tank. And again, more shower facilities. Decent sized shower. And here you go. Needless information. Why are restrooms called on ships called heads? It comes from the days of sailing ships when the place for the crew to relieve themselves was all the way forward on either side of the bow sprit, the integral part of the hull in which the figurehead was fastened. It was the leading part or head of the ship. There's your useless knowledge for the video. Alright, now we're going to go into probably the most working part of this ship. It is the engine room. Of course, when these engines were going, they were very loud. And you can't go down too far, but there's those engines all the way down, pretty much at the bottom of the ship. And of course, they've got these netted off so you can't go down. But then you have more, which can't go up there, but basically the top of the ship you can open up to let some, basically let hot air. All right, so just like any ship, they have a chaplain. So he gets of course, I'm sure he shares this with somebody else, but this is where the chaplain will be. Get another entrance to the engine room. The way that heads down into the cargo hold. Of course, again, that heads up to the bridge. And then the chief steward, this would be his office, or his room. All right, so we've come out, we are now behind basically all the officers' quarters, the mess, the crew quarters. Now we're back into basically the business end of the ship, other than the engine room. And again, we have more cargo holds that would open up. You've got the cranes that would lift and lower the supplies into the ship. Pretty much just not much the same. Again, a location where they can go in down to the bottom into the different levels of the ship. Another cargo hold. And of course, these are locations where more guns are. I would almost want to guess that this is probably where the gun crews lived. So we pretty much nailed it. And yes, this building is here for the naval gun crews. So they would all stay in these different locations. Of course, here's what they're pretty much the same as a crew. So this room housed the gunnery officer, the only naval officer on board and in charge of the armed guard. So this is his location.
No, just looking to see how many guys it was.
So yeah. So basically one officer and the rest were enlisted crew members. All right, so in this room, this is where the gun crews would stay. Very crude, very old school. They would basically get a blanket, not like the other crew members where they actually get mattresses, but these crews, blanket, nylon, basically a floating cot. But they got, again, these weren't windowed, so you get breeze in here, you get lockers, so not a whole lot of room. You would have more bunks here, and you had more bunks. So right here, you have bunks right here for 5 guys. Probably have a third bunk here. So you would probably have 6, 12. You would have 18 bunks in here. And then you have your senior enlisted and your officer probably staying together. So a little bit more room for the gun crews, but still cramped space. So while we're still in the gun crews, there was an emergency exit. Obviously, no one's going to fit through the porthole. You might not be able to get through the door, but on each side is an emergency exit. You just flip those hatches open, it pops open, and out you go. All right, so we are completely back in the back of the ship. Again, here's an entranceway to down below. And then of course, right here, more entry locations. Again, these were the crew quarters. So they were able to, like a shaft alley escape, so they were able to get out, similar to what I showed you in the other group crew quarters. And then up above is the 5-inch gun, not the 3-inch. There's an actually 5-inch gun up here. All right, so we just came up the ladder here. Here is your 3-inch gun, which was a 3-inch gun here, 3-inch gun over here, and then all the way in the back here is the 5-inch gun that I keep mistaking the 3-inchers for the 5-inch. But when you're looking at a distance, sometimes you don't catch the difference. But this is a 5-inch gun, again, crewed by a group of sailors. You have your traverse guy, the guy that raises and lowers it. You have your loader, you have the person who will hand the ammunition. And of course, these guys, their quarters are just below them. That's exactly where it is. Of course, their ammo came up through here and was handed over, especially for the 3-inchers. So a lot of fire, a lot of firepower in the rear of the ship. All right, so we're back basically where we began. Here's the cargo bay, the front, basically the first cargo bay we hit. And again, this is now back. Basically, up top is the bridge, the crew quarters. These are more your crew quarters. Here's your basically your refrigerator, which held all the refrigerated stores. Very crude piping, just to to keep things chilled. Basically for a long voyage.
Supply.
It's so funny to see purified drinking water in cans. But this would keep the crew fed through, these were called reefers.
6 months.
So, as it said, it's supplied for 6 months. And of course, you would head through here and you hit, again, the cargo bay. Looks like they've got that set up for a machine shop and everything, but that was all cargo bay back in that location. And then you head up here, again, this is heading up into the crew quarters, the officers' quarters, the bridge. All right, so in the main area, they do have a small ship store with shirts that are for sale, which obviously go to the help of the preservation of the ship. Rumors cost lives, loose lips sink ships. We can do it. Of course, these ships were built on the backbone of Rosie the Riveter. And the shirts range between $17 and $25. There's a good view of all 3 shirts. We've got different hats for sale with the American Victory Tampa Bay logo. Hats are $23.95. And they've got koozies for $4.95, historic DVDs. They've got a magnet, coins, which, being in the military, we love our coins. And of course, they have some of the different Navy badges, ranging from culinary specialist to electronic warfare technician. So when you come here, grab something, for a little souvenir, even if it is just a magnet. Again, everything that goes here goes to the preservation of the ship. And of course, they also have some food and drinks to have. Of course, this is very, very hot. And again, this is just a quick overview from the shop, so that just tells you right where the ship is compared to the entrance. And again, the entrance is just right there. All right, well, that's gonna do us here at the American Victory ship here in Tampa. Again, it's right next door to the Florida Aquarium. I mean, I could probably spend a little bit more time on this ship, but again, check the website out, which will be in the description. From what the young man said inside, they're getting ready to actually move her this weekend down to, I think he said, Spider Wharf, where it's going to become a ghost ship. And they say it's one of the best haunted experiences. Of course, served in World War II, it's gonna be haunted. So but with that being said, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I liked making it, and y'all have a great day. Bye.